what you're thinking. Tell me just what's on your mind. What you drinking? Is that whiskey on your breath? I smell.
Yes, LA, what is up? What is up? Welcome back to the Showtime Forum podcast. This is episode 7. I am your host, Rey Audel, and with me once again, as usual, is Mr. Audel Del Toro. What is going on, Mr. Audel?
What up, man? Another day in Lakerland.
Yeah, another gloomy day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but with us today to try to cast a little sunshine on all this, I don't know what to call it other than garbage, is none other than ESPN's own George Sedano. How you doing, George?
I'm good, guys. How are you, man? Sorry I'm in the car having to do this. I apologize, but it's been a crazy day.
No worries, man. I understand. I completely understand. I'm just glad you're on, man. Whether you're in the car or wherever you're at this point.
All good. But I don't know how much sunshine I'm going to put on your day today, because it's been a cloudy day, that's for sure, both literally and figuratively here in LA.
Oh, for sure. Well, let's just get going with the big question that every single person in Lakerland is wondering. What the is going on right now? What is going on? I mean, last week we thought we had a head coach wrapped up, and now here we are.
Man, the reality is this, man. You have the blind leading the blind, right? Let's kind of break this down a little bit. You've got a person in Jeannie Rambis who is the owner or principal owner, the governor of the team. She's never had to empower people to make basketball decisions. She did that with Magic. Clearly that didn't work out for whatever reasons Magic decided to put out there or we're left to speculate upon. She then is left to trust Rob Pelinka and her friends in Linda and Kurt Rambis to make decisions for her when it comes to basketball. And the problem is this, even with Magic, it would have still been the case, but at least you have a guy who players can trust to some extent, right? Particularly LeBron and free agents or whatnot, they can at least relate to him.
Exactly.
But now you have a situation in Rob Pelinka, who's running the show, who's a novice, right? Much like Magic was a novice.
Right.
Last year, let's face it, they didn't necessarily put together the roster that made you feel confident in his particular skills. And then you've got Kurt, who's never run a front office or been part of a front office and has been miserable as a head coach. And yeah, he's been a solid assistant, a good soldier. That's fine, I guess, but that doesn't qualify him to run a front office or be part of a search for a front office. And Linda Rambis, who's run business. Again, not someone who's run basketball operations or been part of basketball operations. So this is why you have this mess, because you have the blind leading the blind, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, and for those of you guys who are playing catch up, Adrian Wojnarowski dropped a nuclear bomb on us today, reporting that the Lakers and Ty Lue had hit an impasse, which immediately turned into the Lakers walked away from him, then followed by Lue actually walked away from them, to the fact that then it turned into his terms weren't being met. Then Lue had an issue with adding Jason Kidd to his coaching roster, and who knows what else we've missed in the last 60 seconds. But I guess my main question is, every single day it seems like we have some kind of article that's, I don't want to say negative, but causes some kind of uproar with Laker Nation. Would you say, George, that the Laker fans are overreacting right now at this point, or do you think this is just more of a negotiating tactic by? I mean, I'm kind of just being I'm reaching with this one, but do you think it's more of a negotiating tactic by either party, Ty Lue or the Lakers?
Well, it's funny. While all this was happening in real time, we were on the radio, and the question that John Ireland posed to me when we were doing our crosstalk was, how would you handle this if you're Tyronn Lue? And I said, I'd walk away and see if they come back. Now, both sides have basically, as you pointed out, said that, they broke up with each other for whatever, lack of a better term or phrase.
For sure,
So I mean, look, stranger things have happened. Certainly stranger things have happened to the Lakers. So I am not one to rule anything out, but that relationship doesn't seem like it's potentially headed for, some sort of unity, you know what I'm saying? And unification. Yeah. So I wouldn't bet on that. And I think that what that shows is, again, just the fact that there's not a real structure in place. Okay. And if there's one thing I think LeBron James covets is structure. He didn't have it early in his career. He got it with Pat Riley and those guys. He specifically cited in his Sports Illustrated story about how he wanted to bring that structure and culture to Cleveland. Because look, LeBron basically went to military school with Pat Riley, man. That's how that works when you're there.
Yeah.
And now he's in a situation that has zero structure. Like every day is something. And again, there's no way, and I'm not trying to sit here and say I know what LeBron James is thinking, because I don't, okay?
Yeah.
But there's no way, that he loves what's going on right now. He wouldn't be human if that were the case. Like any normal, rational human being would be like, what the F, man? Like, what is going on here? Just like you guys started the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, with all that being said, do you think that with all the negativity surrounding the Lakers, it could possibly affect LeBron's tenure as a Laker? Do you think he can maybe request a trade, or vice versa, Jeannie Buss can trade him?
Look, I don't rule anything out.
Yeah, you can't. You can't at this point.
Do I think that's likely? No. But I could see LeBron, if this thing goes sideways, I'm not talking about right now. I would be stunned, okay, if LeBron was traded right now or he requested a trade. I would be stunned if that was the case. You don't acquire that guy and then all of a sudden be the one franchise that can't make it work with him. Like that would reflect worse on the Lakers than almost anything that's transpired to this point. Because players around the league would be like, wait, you couldn't make it work with the best player on the planet? Like, really? Even for all the warts that he may have, he's passive aggressive, this, that, and the other, whatever. At the end of the day, the guy wins, okay? Yeah. So you're going to be the one franchise that can't make that work, and don't be the franchise that pushes him out the door, because, again, I'm going to point back to Miami. When him and Riley parted ways, and go back to Gilbert before him, clearly those were icy relationships, which obviously have since been thawed, right? So much so with Gilbert, he went back to work for him. And Riley, I saw, when Dwayne Wade's last game, him and Riley were embracing, were hugging, all that stuff. They were both at the game together. Mm-hmm. So that's thawed. But that cost those two franchises in a lot of ways. Like, star players were like, do I really want to go there if you're gonna push that guy out the door, or you're gonna be a pain in the ass about him going out the door? Like, you don't want that look if you're the Lakers by any stretch of the imagination. And if he bolts, it doesn't reflect well either. It's like, well,
definitely not.
If Brian wants to leave, why the hell am I going to go there?
Yeah, that'd be the final nail in the coffin for sure. I mean, I think for a lot of people that'd be the nail in the coffin. If you can't make it work with LeBron, I don't know. At this point, you need a new owner. But I honestly, I don't know. I mean, to me, this doesn't surprise me. Prior to LeBron getting here, I was not the biggest LeBron fan prior to him joining the Lakers, but this isn't anything that surprises me. This is kind of what we know. We know that wherever LeBron is, and I know KD kind of touched on it a little bit with the toxic nature around him and all that, but I don't know how much of it's really toxic, but it kind of speaks to the structure you were talking about. But to me, it's really the structure that LeBron wants. Yes, it's a structure, but the structure is, it's got to be my way or the highway. At least that's what I get from this. I don't know how much of that's true, but I mean, from everything I've seen over the course of his career, it has to go his way, or he usually has some sort of outburst. So the fact that he hasn't really said much now, it's kind of got me thinking that he knows a little something that maybe we don't know. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's...
Well, not just him, but anybody in Lakers organization hasn't said anything, came out and said anything at all either.
Yeah, listen, man, I'll say this. In Cleveland, there was a lot of dysfunction at times, particularly the first go-around. But the second go-around, look, did LeBron have input? Sure. Every star player has input, like, in that sport. That's not new.
Yeah.
But, so David Griffin, who was a good GM, would be like, hey, here's what we're thinking. But LeBron is never going to be the guy that's going to tell you, yeah, do this. Because he doesn't want it being pinned on him in one way, shape, or form. Because if it goes bad, then it's, well, you told us to do that. And he's never going to be the guy to tell you, go out and do X. You know what I mean? Like, that's not his style. He's going to let you do your job, but you're going to have to deal with the fact that if he's not happy about it later, you're going to have to hear about it. But that's most stars in this sport. And, in Miami, again, he didn't like the fact that he didn't have say, and it wasn't his way or the highway, which was, again, a big part of the reason as to why he left. because he could figure out how to do it back in his hometown with a younger cast, and he felt like, you know, he knew the secret sauce, you know what I mean, from what they had there.
Yeah.
So it's not always been that. And again, in Cleveland, as I pointed out, he was involved, but he's not the guy that's going to tell you pull the trigger on something. Like, that's just not who he is, because he doesn't want it pinned on him later.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I just, as calculated as he's been, and as much as he micromanages the narrative around here, it's hard for me to kind of grasp that, to be honest. But
well, look, if LeBron were a Facebook status, and I'm not on Facebook anymore, I haven't been for 6 years, so I don't know if this is still a thing, but he would be as complicated.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely. Oh man, that's perfect. Yeah, it would definitely be complicated. So, going back to my original question, so do you think Laker fans have a right to be upset? I mean, a lot of people are calling for the front office to come out and speak, say something publicly. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's a little bit premature. I would let this play out before I really, would want to put my reaction out there. But I mean, I even read on Reddit as recently as like an hour ago that they're planning on having a protest outside of Staples Center on Friday.
What? Really?
Yeah. And they're saying it's specifically to draw attention from ESPN. So,
wow.
Little heads up for you.
Well, that would certainly draw attention, that's for sure, because we're right across the street.
Yeah.
But what I would say to you is this, man, like, if I'm a Laker fan, I'm pissed, okay? I'm mad, okay? Yeah. Particularly if you're a fan who spends money on season tickets, right? Like, I saw somebody on Twitter, and I apologize to the guy because I don't remember who it was, but I saw, like, something got retweeted on my timeline where a guy was like, I've had tickets for, a bunch of years. They raise my ticket prices all the time. The guy was saying he was dropping 50 G's on 4 tickets and everything that comes with that. And he's like, I want answers. And I don't blame you if you want answers, if you're spending that kind of coin. Like, I get it. But at this point, they haven't said anything. They might as well just wait it out and just figure out whatever their coach's situation is going to be, because there's no point in coming out now. You've waited this long. You might as well just kind of see this thing through.
Yeah, I don't think they win in any scenario if they come out and say something publicly. I don't think there's anything they can really say that's really going to kind of throw water on the flames, I guess you could say.
But here's the thing: as this continues to be an accumulation of frustration and silence, the day they do have the press conference, it's going to be epic, because there's going to be a lot of questions directed at Rob or whoever's sitting there with whoever the coach is. And I kind of feel bad for the coach, because it's going to rain on his parade. It's going to take away from that guy's day, which sucks, but that's the reality of what's probably going to happen.
And so what are the chances that we find this out on the next episode of The Shop, when LeBron has Linda and Jeannie and Kurt and, and all of them on?
My guess is those guys won't be on The Shop, but I'm sure the next episode of The Shop will be fascinating. And good for LeBron, because now he's got people tuning into that thing more so than he would have previously.
So with that being said, if Ty Lue is indeed out of the running, of the names that have been mentioned, Juwan Howard, Kidd, Hollins, Vogel, and Woodson, who's the right guy at this point?
I mean, man, if I was narrowing it down to a couple of guys, Vogel, he clearly led Indiana to an Eastern Conference Finals. He knows how to coach a veteran team mixed with young guys. That's basically what that team was.
Yeah.
I think that, and he's got Laker ties. He was a scout back in the day, like 05, 06.
Yeah, and he played with Rob, right?
No, that's Juwan.
That's Juwan.
Oh, that is Juwan. Sorry.
Juwan Howard played on the Fab Five, where Pelinka was one of the backups on that team. And, I like Juwan too. I think he'd be another guy that I would consider. The problem with Juwan, and look, so here are the pros on Juwan Howard. He's played with LeBron, and he's been an assistant coach on teams with LeBron, and he's also pushed back on LeBron. One of the pros to Ty Lue was that he wasn't afraid to push back at LeBron, and Juwan has some of that too. The only real con to Juwan is that he's a first-time head coach. Do you really want to put a first-time head coach in this cauldron? Like, I don't know. As much as I have the utmost respect for Juwan, man. Like, I just don't know if that's a situation I want to thrust him into.
Yeah. What about bringing Juwan on and maybe having Vogel as the lead assistant or the head assistant?
I mean, maybe that's possible. He's the second assistant on Eric Spoelstra's staff right now, behind Dan Craig. So, maybe, that could be an upgrade. He could be the associate head coach. Maybe that's possible. But if you're him, you work for one of the most stable organizations in the sport. Like, literally everybody that works there has worked there for 15 or 20 years or longer in some cases.
Yeah.
Whereas the Lakers organization is a turnstile right now. Like, you have to kind of factor that in. And if you're Juwan, you're probably going to get other opportunities. So, all that stuff is in play. Like, yeah, I'm not ruling it out, but I'm just saying that there's negatives to this Lakers situation too.
Yeah, no, of course. My issue is just the fact that, being a Laker fan, I know what we are and I know what we're not. And one thing we're not is we're not patient at all. I mean, we can literally sway from one week to the next. And that's my whole thing, is the fact that, and the media obviously, plays into that. And, they put the stuff out and everybody goes and gets all worked up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, personally, myself, I would just have to say I'd have to wait. I'd have to wait till all this just kind of boils down, because at the end of the day, if Ty Lue's signing on the dotted line, what does this matter?
If he signs on the dotted line, then it's just one more anecdote to a dramatic season. But man, like, if I'm Ty, I would be insulted by that 3-year, $18 million offer. Number one, it's, as I mentioned, Monty Williams, got a 5-year deal from a cesspool of an organization like the Suns. And then, then the other part of it is, this guy's won a championship, right? Like, he deserves, like, real security. And the third part is, allegedly the Lakers were trying to push back on this narrative that they're, trying to kowtow and cater to LeBron. So you offer him the deal that links him directly to LeBron and not beyond that? Like, that doesn't make any sense either. That just seems silly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That I don't know, man. This whole thing is just upside down at this point. I don't know how much of this I really believe. I know the narrative's been out there for a little bit about Linda Rambis just really having, like, significant input in the front office. As much as people say that Jeannie does not know what she's doing and whatnot, I just can't believe that she's really listening to Linda. At least,
Ramona Shelburne's been telling me she's been listening to Linda for decades. Like, that's not a new thing.
I mean, but I listen to my wife as well sometimes, and and you can ask my wife how well I do that.
Yeah, man, but people that are close will tell you that she does heed her advice. You know what I mean? Like, at some point or another, I know that it's very easy, especially in today's day and age, to dismiss the media, but you got a lot of really credible people working on this, on the NBA beat, man. And, like, today is a perfect example of literally everybody having the same story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that, at some point, it's just, and Jeannie's done it. She's been guilty of it too, calling things fake news. And that, to be honest, is insulting too, to a lot of people who do their job. Jeannie needs to get her house in order, and she thinks she does. But the problem is this: the reality is that the people that she has closest to her right now all have an incentive to make sure that she continues to empower them, and that's self-preservation 101, man. Like, those guys are trying to, keep the job,
So this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, everybody's saying how the Lakers front office is in shambles, it's a mess, all that, right? But then you have guys, I know you had Jason Terry on earlier, and he was sitting there saying that if he was a free agent right now of the LeBron, Kawhi magnitude, that he would completely sign with the Lakers if he had an opportunity. So that's where I kind of get lost a little bit.
Yeah, that's one guy's opinion, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, and by the way, Jason Terry's an old head. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jason Terry is going to have a different just philosophy to life than a 26-year-old guy who's in free agency right now, or a 28-year-old. Like, does Kevin Durant strike you in any way, shape, or form anything like Jason Terry? And that's not a negative towards Jason Terry. Like, Jason Terry keeps it 100, but like Kevin Durant and these guys now, like this group of guys, they just think differently than those guys. Jason Terry's 40 years old. Like, they don't have a ton in common, outside of playing basketball.
Yeah.
So I look, hopefully for the Lakers' sake, that there's guys that think like Jason Terry, because the reality is, if they don't, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be even more angry than they are today over the Tyronn Lue situation. The Tyronn Lue situation is nothing compared to what could happen if the Lakers strike out in free agency this offseason. That is going to be seismic.
Definitely.
The sounds that people are going to be making in that scenario. So, look, Jason Terry also liked Jason Kidd, but he was also a teammate with Jason Kidd where they won a championship and, played for him too. But everyone else in the world seems to tell you that Jason Kidd is not a guy you want coaching your team. His record speaks volumes, right? Like, there's that. And the reality is, there's been way too much smoke about him wanting to upsell himself and not just being a coach. So, do you want that? Like, I just feel like that adds more drama to the situation. So, again, you have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think what you need to do is look at the situation, and you look at it in its totality. How much of the narrative is being spun in the same direction by individual people who don't have anything to do with each other, right? That to me is more telling than one individual coming out and saying things to the contrary. You know what I'm saying? Like that could just be an outlier. Like, again, if I have enough people telling me that the girl I'm dating ain't the right girl for me, but I got one of my boys telling me, like, yo, man, but she's hot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm probably it's probably my best interest to listen to the larger sample of people telling me, no, man, she's not for you.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That one guy might have a point, man.
I don't mean she's not hot. You know what I'm saying? But she may not be right for you.
All right, so let me ask you this. So if you have the magic wand and you can make this decision for us, who are you bringing aboard? Who's your guy? Who's the next head coach?
The guy was Tyronn Lue, so are we saying that he's not available anymore?
Yeah, we're saying he's not available. Let's say he's gone, and we're just pretty much on Vogel. Who else we got? Vogel, Jason Kidd, Mike Woodson, all those guys.
Honestly, I'd go off the board, even though I don't think this is plausible either. Mm-hmm. And I try to put Phil and LeBron in a room and try to have them squash their beef.
Phil.
Wow. Holy crap. You know what?
On the triangle.
No. But he's got to get rid of the triangle, too.
Yeah, that's not going to
happen. That thing's antiquated. Like, enough with that.
So we actually had a question from someone on Twitter, at Chase Aguilar. He said, if Kidd is the coach and Kawhi comes, how are we feeling about that?
I mean, look, if you have that kind of talent, it could work out. But man, like, he left a lot to be desired from a schematic standpoint. Look at what Mike Budenholzer's done with a very similar roster.
Yep.
They are a 1 seed and they might win the championship this year. Like, they could be the one team outside of the Rockets that could beat the Warriors. And that's what good coaching does, Yeah. Now, could LeBron and Kawhi erase that? Maybe. Like, it's very possible. But I still think at the end of the day, you need good coaching, man. Like, I don't think he's a good coach.
No, I agree. So let's say, I don't know if I want to say worst case scenario, but let's say Jason Kidd is the coach. So let's say through all this mess, Jason Kidd emerges and he is the guy that I guess is holding the crown at the end of the day, right? I know a lot of his background. I know the domestic abuse and all that stuff. How bad of a scenario are we in at that point? Like, how bad is it at that point if we do have Jason Kidd?
I mean, what else does he have around him? You know what I mean? Like, that's always the question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's Kawhi, then, maybe they can get deep in the playoffs because they've just got too much talent.
I hope so.
If it's LeBron, if it's Jason Kidd with LeBron and the group that we have right now here in Los Angeles, I don't know how much. I mean, they'll make the playoffs because if LeBron is healthy, they'll make the playoffs. But I don't know how much better they are. Like I don't know if they're a championship team.
Yeah.
Oh man, George, you did not help this at all, man.
I'm trying to warn you on the front end, you know.
Man, I think I'm gonna have to hit the liquor store after this because, my goodness, I don't drink, but
you
gonna have
may
to.
need something stronger than that. I think, you know. I mean, it is recreational now, you know.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Well, who knows? Who knows? It's going to be a long night, so I guess I'll have the time to think it over at least. Well, let me ask you a quick question. Kind of a little bit off topic, but there was a comment that Jason Terry said on your show earlier today where he personally said that Jason Kidd was I don't know if it was verbatim, but he said something along the lines of Jason Kidd was extremely influential in Giannis's development. What do you think about that?
Well, Giannis told me as much. I said this on the radio later. You know, I had a game with Giannis in the first round of the playoffs, and he mentioned that. I think that he particularly helped him with his court vision. I mean, Giannis was an excellent passer under Kidd. I mean, there were times literally he was like a 6'10" point guard. So I think, of course, look, Jason Kidd's a great player. Of course, he's going to be able to help him in that sense. But to be a head coach, there's more to it than that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to manage an entire locker room of egos. Yeah. And it's not just the development of one player, which, by the way, the development of one player isn't just on the head coach. You know what I mean? Like, even though Giannis did say Jay Kidd helped him along the way for sure, Giannis also did credit the entire staff. You know what I'm saying? That was there. And Giannis has been very good at crediting everyone that he's played for. He did single out Kidd to me, but again, he's like he's a good kid, so he's going to talk about everyone pretty glowingly, I feel like. And Jason Kidd is a Hall of Famer. He deserves credit. You know, Magic Johnson is a Hall of Famer. Was Magic Johnson a good coach? You know what I mean?
No,
I mean, Magic Johnson was, you know, we can't even say he was a great executive, to be honest with you, even though he's a Hall of Fame player. Those skill sets are different. The relatability to a player one-on-one is different than the relatability to a group, and managing a group and managing a staff and managing up with your front office. Like, there's a lot of facets to being a head coach.
I don't know, man. I'm lost. I was hoping I'd get some kind of clarity, but I guess I'll continue on till next week to see what develops.
Yep.
Look, man, it could be worse. If they end up with like someone like Frank Vogel, it could be a lot worse. Like, Frank Vogel's a good coach. I know I mentioned Phil earlier, but in all honesty, I would still try that. I mean, don't get me wrong. And to be honest, I wouldn't put him past the Lakers at this point. But if they end up with Vogel, Vogel's a good coach. You know, Vogel's never coached LeBron, and that's a different beast. But Vogel at least has real head coaching experience and went deep in the playoffs and coached a good team that went up against LeBron. I think there's some positives to that if he ends up being the guy. I love that Vogel was going to be part of the staff, allegedly, with Tyronn Lue.
So did I.
I was a fan of that. So I would, look, if he's the consolation prize, I don't think he's the perfect guy because I do think that Lue was better suited for it. But I think you can do way worse than Frank Vogel.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yep.
100%. Because you never know, man. Magic might be walking back through those doors as the head coach at some point, right? And still lingering around.
I doubt
that. Oh, man. All right, man. So we just kind of had to go. Let's fast forward to July 1st. What scenario are we in? What are you predicting, George?
Oh, man. Especially coming off the heels of today, who the hell knows? You know what I mean? I know that Stephen A. told me on the radio show today that LeBron was recruiting Kawhi hard. He was in Philly for the series and allegedly was at the hotel. Yeah. Dave McMenamin said he had heard the same story but couldn't confirm it. You know, and look, I think LeBron knows that Kawhi is the perfect guy for him because, you know, as LeBron gets older, he's not the defender he used to be. Kawhi clearly is that. You know, and Kawhi is putting up ridiculous numbers right now, you know. So I think that LeBron is doing things out of the ordinary like that, going and visiting guys. Like, that's not what LeBron does, like, historically. So
Yeah.
it shows how important this offseason is to him and the Lakers and his legacy, and he understands all of that. But I don't know, man. I can't handicap any of this stuff for you. Like, I sure as hell don't know what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah, none of us do.
Well, I know a guy on Twitter who might know.
Who's that?
I don't know if I want to name him by name, but hey, George, let me ask you a question, man. Are you familiar with some guy on Twitter named I Got Sources?
Oh, isn't that the guy? I don't know. I mean, I saw people tweeting about him. Isn't he the guy that said that Monty was going to be the coach?
Yeah, and he's also been calling Kawhi to the Lakers for some time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean,
I guess.
LeBron got caught on camera telling him he was going to, talk to him down the road or whatever the hell he said.
Keep in touch.
Yeah.
People keep in touch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a secret that LeBron was going to try to recruit Kawhi. Like, he worked out with him in the offseason, too. So, I mean, it's not really anything out of the ordinary. Now, whether he lands Kawhi, whatever, Kawhi wants to be in L.A. Does he want his own team or does he want to play with LeBron? There's a lot of smoke that he doesn't want to play with LeBron. But, Stephen A. says that LeBron is trying to convince him otherwise. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's try to end this on a positive note, George. So, say one good thing about the Lakers right now.
One good thing? I can take a couple of good things.
All right, let's go.
Okay, let's go.
They have LeBron James. They have maximum cap space.
Boom.
They've got a lottery pick.
Boom.
And, they've got some young assets. I don't know how tradable those assets are right now because of injuries and unfortunate circumstances in Brandon Ingram's case. But, they've got some guys that, in theory, if they're healthy, can play. But the other three scenarios are positives for sure.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Pretty positive.
Yeah, I think we'll just end it up on that note because I don't think I can take any more of this. This is just my blood pressure is starting to rise here, guys.
All right, good, boys.
Yeah, man. I want to go ahead and say thank you to George Sedano for joining us today. You can catch him on ESPN LA, I believe Monday through Friday, 3 to 7, right, George?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect, man. I
Appreciate it, George.
And don't hesitate to ever call in, man, if you ever want to jump on the pod again.
Well, now I got the Skype. I can hit you on the bat line.
Boom. Just don't do it after 10, man, because then my wife wonders who it is.
Sounds good.
All right, George. You take it easy,
Thanks,
man.
George.
All right, guys. Be good. See ya. Thanks
You
for
too,
having me
man.
on.
George Sedano, folks.
That was good.
The little bit of sunlight that we have left in LA, that's
Yeah.
kind of ironic, right? But, oh, man. So we're going to go ahead and sign out here, guys. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
If you are listening, once again, as usual, we appreciate if you guys are tuning in to Catch the Showtime Forum. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We're on everything. If you want to follow the podcast, go ahead and add a subscribe, drop a review. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts, Anchor, YouTube. We're on everything at this point. So, like I said, at this point, we're doing everything on our own, out of our own time, taking time away from our family, our kids. Well, not your kids, but my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But our families nonetheless. And, we're doing this, like I said, for Laker Nation, for you guys, just for the love of it. So, please
Yes,
drop
sir.
a review. Go ahead and share, subscribe. Do all you can to support us because we're only moving one way, and that's up. So,
That's right.
from the Showtime Forum podcast crew, from Mr. Audel Del Toro, we're going to go ahead and say thank you, and we'll catch you again next week, and we'll see what we have for you next week.
Yeah.
So you're a bad one, holding plain civilians up for ransom. Ain't no picking and choosing all at random.